Hello everybody, today in this video we're going to be going over how to factor quadratic trinomials. So remember, quadratic trinomials are trinomials, which means they have three terms, and they're quadratic, which means that the highest exponent is 2. So it's going to look something like this. B and C are going to be the coefficients, so those are going to be just numbers, and x is going to be your variable. And for these problems that we're going to do today, there's going to be no coefficient of x squared. Usually that's the variable a, but for these ones we're not going to worry about how to do it if it's the x squared has a coefficient. Okay, so all the quadratic trinomials are going to look like this. So these are the steps for factoring quadratic trinomials. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have the steps on the left hand side as I do some of these problems, and so then you're going to see what's going on here. Okay, so here are the steps, and we're going to start with this example 1. We're going to factor this trinomial. So this trinomial says x squared plus 12x plus x plus 36. So how are we going to factor it? The first thing that we have to do is list out the factor pairs of c. That's going to be the first step. So in this case, c is your constant. That's going to be 36, okay? So what we can do is write 36 and then think about all the numbers that divide 36. Well, 1 divides every number, so 1 and 36 would be a factor pair of 36, okay? Because 1 times 36 is 36. And then we can move on to 2 and 18. 2 times 18 is 36. Then we have 3 times 12, which is also 36. 4 is also divisible by 36. 4 times 9. 5 is not. 5 does not go into 36, but 6 does. 6 and 6. Okay, so those are the factor pairs of C. Then what we're going to do is we're going to determine which factor pair adds up to B, adds up to the middle term. So that's how B comes into play. So in this case, B is 12, and the factor pair that adds up to 12 is going to be this one, 6 and 6, because 6 plus 6 actually adds up to 12, okay? So that's going to be the factor pair that adds up to the middle term. Then we're going to do this step. So we're going to use those numbers to write the trinomial as two binomials. So what does that mean? So basically what that means is because these two numbers are positive 6 and positive 6, this trinomial can be rewritten as x plus 6, so positive 6 right here, x plus 6 times x plus 6, okay? So that's how to factor the trinomial. Then what you should do to verify is multiply the two binomials out to verify your answer, okay? So when you multiply these two binomials, you get this. Because if you distribute the x, we have x times x is x squared, x times 6 is 6x, 6 times x is also 6x, and 6 times 6 is 36, okay? So I got these numbers by distributing the x and distributing the 6 to both of these. Then what we can do is combine like terms. So here the two like terms would be 6x and 6x. There's no other like terms. And if you notice here, we actually got the original trinomial. So it's going to be the original one, x squared plus 12x plus 36. So because we got the original trinomial, that means that we factored it correctly, okay? Which means that we can circle, this, and this will be our solution, okay? So these two steps for step 4, these two parts right here is verifying the solution, but the solution is this. This is factoring the trinomial. So the trinomial goes from this to this, okay? So let's work on a second example to make sure you guys got it. So we're going to factor this trinomial, x squared minus 9x plus 20, okay? So the first step is going to be to list out the factor pairs of C, okay? So in this case, C is going to be 20. And so we're going to list out all the numbers that go into 20. So those numbers are going to be 1 and 20, okay? 2 and 10 go into 20 as well. 3 does not go into 20, but 4 does. 4 and 5, and we're at 5 right here, so we don't need to move on, okay? These are the only factor pairs that add up to 20, okay? So then what we're going to do is determine which of these factor pairs adds up to B, which is negative 9. But notice, you guys, that actually B is negative. It's going to be negative 9, okay? So when b is negative, that means that all the factor pairs should also be negative. Now notice that when you multiply two negatives together, you get a positive. So these are still the factor pairs, but they need to be negative because the middle term is negative. Okay, that's the reason why. So the factor pairs that adds up to -9 is going to be -4 and -5. So we're going to circle those. Okay, that's going to be the pair that we need. And then we're going to move on to step 3, which is to use those numbers to write the trinomials as two binomials. So our numbers are -4 and -5. So we're going to write it like this: x minus 4 times x minus 5. Okay, so that's going to be the factored answer. So lastly, we have to do step 4. We're going to multiply them out to verify the answer. And basically what we have to do here is make sure that our solution is the same as the original problem. Okay, just like if you factor like 15, for example, 15 would be 5 times 3. And if you multiply them, you get the original number. Okay, so that's why we want to do step 4 to verify. So we're going to move on to that step 4. So we're going to multiply these two binomials. We're going to distribute the x to both of these, and we're going to distribute the -4 to both of these, and that's going to end up looking like this. Okay, x times x is x squared, x times -5 is -5x, -4 times x is -4x, and -4 times -5 is +20. So those are the terms right there. And then we're going to combine the middle two terms, -4x minus 5x, to get -9x. And so notice that that's actually the original trinomial as well. So because these two are the same, we verified the solution. So the solution is going to be x minus 4 times x minus 5. So that's how you factor quadratic trinomials.